What is going on? It is that time. It is the mock draft episode. I'm almost as excited about this as I am for the actual draft. There's only two of us today, or right now. I mean, another one's going to be joining probably during the intro video. We'll get him up there, if not a little shortly after. But we did our mock draft early, so you guys, there's not going to be a delay while we think about who we want. It's already done. We're just going to tell you why we picked these guys, why we think it's a fit. Sully's going to go over his mock draft that he did on his own, kind of who he has, because we only did 2 trades here. We'll talk about that.
And there obviously will be much more. So
way more, yeah. So let me hit the intro here, and we will get right into what everybody is waiting for.
Jordan. Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Drives one out to deep left field. This one's got a chance to get out of here. Gone! 3-run Jimmy Jack first big league home run for Mike Trout.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
And an 81-point game. 55 in the second half. Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed the second greatest scoring performance in NBA history.
What's up, everybody? Infinity Sports in the house doing our mock draft. And, you know, a little insight into how we did this. We all said, listen, numbers 1 and 2, they're set in stone. So the 3 of us, we're just going to pick 10 picks each from 3 through 32. And we still have the 2 picks. We'll go over them. We'll go over why we think that's going to happen and why it's a good fit and whatnot. There was discussion about whether or not we should have trades in this draft. I know one of us didn't want trades. The other 2 did. And it became we'll get into it when it comes up. But I do think Sully had a little bit of vindictiveness in some of his trades, which is fine. It burned me the first time, but it made me laugh the second time. So we'll get into that in just a second. But obviously the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock. They've got the first overall pick. I don't think there's any doubt where they're going, but the pick is in. And Sully, who are the Jacksonville Jaguars taking?
The Jacksonville Jaguars are going to take Justin Fields. I'm just joking, folks. Come on now. It's Trevor Lawrence. It's been Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence was the number 1 pick when he went to Clemson his freshman year. Everybody knew he was going to be the number 1 pick. It's a fantastic situation, I think, for Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars, obviously. I truly do think he's going to be pretty tailor-made for Urban Meyer's system there. There isn't a lot that he won't be able to do in that system. And, you know, I know people are worried he didn't really run a huge pro-style offense at Clemson, but, I mean, let's be fair. The NFL is kind of evolving into this, kind of read game and adopting some schemes from college. And I think he has the talent to kind of prove that over, and he'll be totally fine there in Jacksonville.
Now, NFL.com, they came out with a report today that said that Urban Meyer, they weren't 100% committed on Trevor Lawrence. They wanted to interview him, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, or Mac Jones, all of them. They said, that those interviews are going to determine which way we go. I just don't think if for whatever reason they decide Justin Fields is their guy or whoever, there's no way they take him at 1, right? I mean, you trade that pick if you're not taking him.
If you don't take Trevor Lawrence at 1, you have to trade it for the biggest ransom you've ever gotten in your life. I mean, I would trade – truthfully, I trade the next 3 drafts for Trevor Lawrence if I was an NFL franchise. I mean, the first – take them all. Take every pick I have in the next 3 drafts. I'll take Trevor Lawrence, and I'll especially if I'm a team like New England, for sure. I'll give you 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 in the next 3 drafts, and we'll be fine. He's that good. That's the thing is if you feel like you don't like him to be your number 1 pick, you have to move out. You can't take anybody else there.
Well, Nick joins the show just in time for pick number I got to move everybody around. Pick number 2, actually. So we've mentioned.
Perfect. Now you're okay. We're good.
Yeah. I mentioned at the start that obviously, the first 2 are set in stone, but I figured New York Jets are on the clock. The Jaguars just selected Trevor Lawrence, so the pick is in. Nick, who are the Jets taking with the 2nd overall pick?
Well, this is going to come as a surprise to many, but the New York Jets are going to be taking Zach Wilson from BYU. so who'd have thunk? Right, traded Sam Darnold, going to riding it out with Zach Wilson. Should be interesting how this pans out. He's going to have the same talent around him that Sam Darnold has, but the kid's got a ton of potential. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer this guy's going number 2. I think as soon as they traded Darnold, I feel like that sealed the fate. No, I say it's a no-brainer, but I think that there's still talk that the New York Jets could go Justin Fields number 2. I don't know, Sully, if you think that's a possibility still.
I don't. I mean, anything can ever always happen, but I don't see it happening. I just think there really isn't anything Justin Fields does better than Zach Wilson. I mean, he's slightly more accurate, but I mean, I actually think Zach Wilson's maybe a better runner, to be truthfully honest, and he's definitely a better thrower outside the pocket and things like that. So, I think it'd be difficult. I really like what Robert Saleh is doing in New York there. I think he's genuinely going to be able to change the culture. And, a quarterback is the linchpin of that. It's essentially what drives that whole thing. And Zach Wilson's got to be the pick here, in my opinion.
And I don't think he sits, right? I mean, he starts day 1, doesn't he?
I would assume so. I mean, he'd have to have a pretty terrible camp to not start right away. I'd start him right away. The rest of the draft, the way it's playing out, I think I have them being one of the more aggressive teams and moving up and taking a tackle. And then, so I think they're going to be able to do a lot of good things in this draft. So.
Well, the 49ers pick next, and everyone's agreeing this is where the draft actually starts because the 49ers are playing it pretty close to the vest. We know they're taking a quarterback. That's not up for debate. But it's a question of which quarterback are they taking. So the pick is in. Who did they take in our mock draft? The not New York Jets, the San Francisco 49ers chose Mac Jones. I would be surprised here. I picked Mac Jones just because there's so much smoke around Mac Jones. And now reports are coming out that Kyle Shanahan wants Mac Jones. The scouting department wants Trey Lance. But I feel like in that situation, the coach is the one that's going to win out because he's the guy that's coaching the team. Like, you're not going to listen to your head scout over the coach, are you?
I mean, you pay the scout for one reason. You pay the scout to scout the player. And you pay the coach to coach the player. You don't pay the coach to scout the player. So I don't know. It kind of depends. I assume they're all going to get in a room and figure it out. The betting favorite says Mac Jones. But again, this would be a situation where a coach would be deciding. He'd be saying, my system is more important than the quarterback here. Because you're going to look at Mac Jones other than processing. You're not really going to have him really doing anything better than Trey Lance. I mean, he's more accurate. So he's more accurate and he processes the game faster. Outside of that, Trey Lance has every other quality you're looking for in a quarterback. So you would think Mike Shanahan could make him good in his system, especially because of the running ability he has over Mac Jones would fit this system better. But again, if Kyle Shanahan just wants a guy to do that, go out there, process the open receiver, get ball to open receiver. My system will do the rest, essentially. You don't have to make plays. My system will be the playmaker. Then, I think Mac Jones is a great fit, but I don't love it. I don't love Mac Jones there. I don't have Mac Jones as this great talent that everybody sees him as, if I'm being honest. I've got him ranked in the 20s, as a prospect, so I couldn't see taking him at 3, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I have Trey Lance going 3 in my draft.
I'd be shocked. I mean, he makes sense in San Francisco, don't get me wrong, but he makes sense in San Francisco at like 15 to 20. He doesn't make sense in San Francisco as a number 3 pick. I mean, the Jets. That's
the big thing is stay at 12 if you love Mac Jones. Don't give up 3 first rounders if you love Mac Jones. I guess. I mean, I agree with Nick there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. When we were doing the draft, Nick did not like this pick, but it seems like that's what they're going to do. I mean, I really think that's the way they're going to go.
I mean, it's just they are. I mean, it's not a gamble. It's a safe pick, but I don't know that trading up to 3 is what you do with a safe pick. You're looking for a franchise quarterback at that pick, and I think Mac Jones again, like with the right system around, he can win you. He'll win. And he's not going to, he's not going to force balls in bad situations. He's not going to turn the ball over much. He's going to be elite as a short passer. Anything inside pretty much 15 yards. I mean, he's the best quarterback in the draft. not Trevor Lawrence, not named Trevor Lawrence, of course. But I don't know. I don't know that you can justify trading up to 3 for Mac Jones. That's crazier than Danny Dimes going to the Giants a couple years ago and them trading up to. I mean, in my opinion, I think it's crazier
close.
Going to 3.
It's close. I mean, here's the argument I have is why not wait it out? I guess waiting it out may be a bad word. Why not like 7? If you really want to go to 7,
right.
Do we really think Mac Jones is the third quarterback off the board? And San Francisco may have believed that, but I don't know. I personally don't see any. Trey Lance just fits their scheme to a T, in my opinion, and is so much more talented. So, but
they're not hurting for a quarterback either. I mean, Jimmy G is a capable pro quarterback. Health has always been his question.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they traded up to get Mac Jones. I think they traded up to get a quarterback, and then they were doing their analysis, and I think they kind of fell into Mac Jones.
But
that would be that would be, I think, a terrible way to do business because you have to also understand what the rest of the league does and how the rest of the league views these players. If the rest of the league doesn't view Mac Jones as the overall third best quarterback, then why move up to 3 and grab him? You moved up to 3 because you specifically had a guy in mind that you were in love with and that you wanted. And that's the only reason you move 3 first rounders to get to 3. Otherwise, move a first and a third and get to 7. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to move. You don't have to mortgage your future at that point. That's what makes it so hard for me is because they mortgage their future now to get their guy. And if their guy is Mac Jones, then why not get him at 7? So,
yeah.
Well, the 4th pick, which has been shopped around quite a bit, was the Atlanta Falcons. And this is Nick's first pick in our mock draft. So the pick is in. Who are the Atlanta Falcons taking at number 4?
I have the Atlanta Falcons taking the best receiver in the class. That receiver's Kyle Pitts, tight end out of the University of Florida. I wasn't, ironically enough, when we went through this mock draft and I made that pick, I wasn't sure because Atlanta could go quarterback, right? But now with the Julio Jones trade rumors that are popping up here and there, I mean, you want to talk about an elite type receiver that can replace a Julio Jones, even at the tight end position. You're talking about Kyle Pitts. He is going to redefine the position of tight end. He is in a stacked wide receiver class, the best receiving option of this class at the tight end position. He's a matchup nightmare. You can't cover him with a linebacker. You can't cover him with smaller corners or safeties are not going to be quick enough for him. He is going to eat up NFL defenses. And why not pair him with a guy like Matt Ryan?
So I'm curious, Sully, who you have in your mock draft at 4, because what are the chances that the Falcons take Matt Ryan's successor here?
I think it's pretty high, but I have Kyle Pitts as well, and it's truly because of Arthur Smith, the new coach. He loves tight ends. I mean, he wants to feature his tight end in the offense. That's what he wants to do. So it really just makes way too much sense here. If it was another team or another coach and another system at 4, I mean, I would think you've got to go quarterback here because when do you expect to pick in the top 5 again? And when is there going to be a quarterback like Justin Fields or Trey Lance available at number 4? I mean, they go number 1 in most drafts, so it's going to be hard to do it, but I truly do think this is a team and a roster that feels like they're capable of winning right now. And if they can get a guy like Kyle Pitts, who I think, again, Arthur Smith is going to absolutely swoon over. I mean, so I think that's kind of the tipping factor.
If you do get Kyle Pitts, then why move Julio? I mean, it seems have him,
cap
Ridley
space.
In.
Cap space, yeah.
They don't have the cap room, and they got to sign. That's why a lot of people are predicting them to trade back. Even if they go back to 9, the cap space they save is huge. So, and it's cheaper. Once you get out of even further, it's cheaper to have like 3 or 4 guys that are out of the top 10 than it is to have one top 10 guy, just because of the way the rookie paid scale is, or the way the rookie wage scale is written. But I mean, if they move Julio, you would have to think they still can probably get a first for him, if not a very early second from somebody like Jacksonville or the Jets or something like that. And so then again, you could turn that into something I think very useful as well. So I just think, again, Arthur Smith is, I mean, literally fantasizes about a tight end like Kyle Pitts at night in his offense, and now he has the chance to get one. I don't think he'll be able to pass.
I think it's going to be very difficult for them to move that pick as well, because you think about it, if you're moving up to 4 from anywhere, you're probably moving up to take a quarterback, unless you're just trying to like maybe get Jamar Chase before the Dolphins do. But for the most part, probably moving up to get a quarterback. And there's 4 teams left here that would be trading up to get a quarterback. One is Denver, but there's nobody picking ahead of them who's going to take a quarterback, so they could sit still. The other 3 are the Bears, the Washington football team, and the Patriots. And they're all so far back that moving up to 4 would cost them way too much, I think.
Yeah, and New England doesn't trade up. Historically, I mean that's
historically.
I
do think they have a strong possibility to trade up this year. I have them moving up in my mock draft, but I do think 4 would be tough. I do think 4 is going to be tough, and teams know that like they don't have to get to 4. Really, they got to get to 7, and so I think it's going to be tough for Atlanta to find a willing partner at that point.
The Cincinnati Bengals had the number 1 pick last year. They have the 5th overall pick this year, and the pick is in. Sully had this one. Who do you have the Cincinnati Bengals taking at 5?
I have the Cincinnati Bengals taking offensive lineman Penei Sewell from Oregon. Man, I went back and forth on this pick probably 100 times, if I'm being honest. You can make a legitimate case for each one, and I don't think you'd be wrong on either side that you went. He's 20 years old, and he's just so dominant already. I just don't see how you don't take him and protect your kind of, franchise player right there. He's going to affect the game in so many ways. He's not just a pass blocker. He can maul in the run game as well. And, so if you throw him inside at guard for a year, you throw him inside at guard for a year. If you move Jonah Williams, you move Jonah Williams. I don't think Riley Reif's moving out from right tackle. But, I mean, at that point, like you're improving a whole unit, in my opinion. And I also think it's the much safer pick also, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with Sully 100%. The only thing I would add is the fact that he is the best offensive line talent in this draft, and Cincinnati saw firsthand last year what happens when you don't protect your prize asset.
I think that's the way you have to go. I think you have to go offensive line. I guess my question for you is, looking at all the grades coming out now, 2 days before the draft, I see a lot of people have Rashawn Slater rated exactly the same level as Penei Sewell. Maybe that's
versatility.
Maybe because he sat out a year or two.
Well, so did Penei. So they both sat out last year.
Okay.
So it's not that, and I don't know. So you look at Penei Sewell, the last tape we have of him, obviously last year as a sophomore, true sophomore at 19 years old, and he was as dominant as you've ever seen a player on tape ever in the history of football. And offensive lineman is a position that the older you get, just naturally the better you get. You become more physically sound in your body. Technique's a huge deal. You learn more and things like that. So if you're already this good at 19, the projection for an offensive lineman is pretty easy to see. And I just feel like Penei Sewell is the closest thing to a can't-miss prospect you've ever seen. I mean, you talk about Quentin Nelson as we all do as this all-world prospect. And nobody even knew his name as a sophomore or a junior. Right. You know what I mean? He didn't blow up until his senior year, really. Penei Sewell's tape was as good as Quentin Nelson's tape as a sophomore as Quentin Nelson was as a senior. And I think that really just ranged so much in my evaluation of him.
And Wayne, to answer your question on Slater, I think part of it comes down to team need, right? So if I'm the New York Giants, I might rank Slater above a guy like Sewell if I need offensive line talent, because a center is definitely a priority, and you could put Slater there. I mean, he's very versatile across the line, very talented, tremendous athlete already for his size. So I think that's why you're seeing him ranked, but I think it depends on the team's draft board.
It really does.
The Miami Dolphins are at number 6. The pick is in. And when I was looking at the Miami Dolphins, I honestly think – I know that they traded up to 6. They were down there, and they moved up. And I think that they are targeting Kyle Pitts. I truly believe that. But in our mock draft, he's not there, right? So they can't have him. So I don't think they move out of that spot. And at 6, I have them taking Jamar Chase, a wide receiver from LSU. I think it makes all the sense in the world to take him, to give Tua another weapon. I think they could go Slater here because they need offensive line help as well. But I just think that their target's Kyle Pitts. When they don't get him, they take the second best receiver.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think I think it's a scary proposition to have a guy like Mike Gesicki and Kyle Pitts together as tight ends, because Gesicki's a crazy athlete in his own right. But Ja'Marr Chase is the best wide receiver in this draft. I think that we could all agree on that. Tremendous talent, probably going to have a very long career. I know that people talked about like the breakout season that Justin Jefferson had, for example, in Minnesota. I mean, Ja'Marr Chase can come on and put up that production or better in the right situation. I mean, he is that good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you talk about Ja'Marr Chase as like a prospect, and it's pretty difficult to find a receiver better than him in the last couple of years. He'd be the number one receiver in most of these. I mean, all of these drafts in the past couple of years. He's just pretty much everything you want for physically and athletic wise. And I love his fit in Miami. I do think Miami has the ability to trade down here. I think they're going to look at this situation and think, we have 3 wide receiver targets we like here, and if Denver comes calling, why would we not take that phone call? So I think there's a strong possibility they may move down here. Now moving off a guy like Ja'Marr Chase, because at that point, then you're legit worried that at number 7 that Detroit stays and takes Ja'Marr Chase there at that point, because they need a number 1. But they could move out too. But I would look for Miami to move down, honestly. I've got them as one of my sleeper teams to move down.
And just another point to add, because I want to bring this up for Ja'Marr Chase, because I think he's deserving of this recognition as well as Kyle Pitts. You're talking about 2 receivers in this class, in a class where a receiver won the Heisman, right? That's how elite those guys are. To be projecting above a guy like Devontae Smith is incredible. I think it speaks volumes about the potential that they bring to an NFL team right now.
To be fair, if Devontae Smith weighed 190 pounds, he'd be the number 1 receiver in this class. But
that is absolutely true.
When you weigh 165 pounds at 6 foot tall, like that, which was his last weigh-in at his pro day, you weighed 166 pounds at 6 feet even. That is not a good number. So, but you can't knock what the guy does on the field.
Right.
But we'll get to him.
Yeah. So the Detroit Lions are on the clock now, or the pick is in with the Detroit Lions, and this is the point where Sully in our mock draft was like, the New England should be on the phone with Detroit. I was like, nah, I'm waiting. And we'll see how that came back to bite me in a second. But the Detroit Lions, the pick is in, and at number 7, Nick, who did the Detroit Lions decide to go with?
Well, speaking of the devil, we have the Detroit Lions taking Devontae Smith. So we have Devontae Smith going to the Detroit Lions, really for no other reason, I was thinking, than the fact that they lost Kenny Golladay and they need some playmakers at the position. They don't really have much going for them offensively other than DeAndre Swift, who had some injury, health-related issues. I mean, he can be a versatile receiver. You can play him in a vertical-type package. You can put him into the slot. He can play all over the place. You can run him out of the backfield if you need to. This guy has the talent and the ability to be, I think, something like an Austin Eckler at the wide receiver position, right? Like, I mean, he can play all over. Right? He's really, really an elite talent. I mean, the guy won the Heisman. The production's there. It's just a matter of, Detroit's a tough spot for him, but I think they need a guy like him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love the pick because I don't love Devontae Smith. If in my no trade mock, which is essentially what this is because we haven't had a trade yet, even though we should have, I have Detroit sticking and taking Micah Parsons here just because I think he's just kind of, he just fits kind of what they want to do at linebacker. He's easily the best defensive player in this draft, in my opinion, and is kind of the best value outside of the offensive guys. However, Denver's most likely going to trade up to this pick. I would expect them to just to kind of prevent other people from trading up. You got to give up, a third to move up and get Justin Fields at that point. It just makes too much sense, in my opinion. So that's personally what I would do if I was Detroit. So.
Listen, Detroit needs to give Jared Goff something. They need to give Jared Goff something.
I hear you, but is Devontae Smith that? I mean, Devontae Smith is smaller Robert Woods. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, he's not. He's not. But Yeah.
Yeah.
Detroit's in a tough situation.
They are, but that's what I mean. I'm pretty sure they're the Vegas's second best odds to finish with the worst record. It's Houston, then Detroit. So
we do have some comments coming in. Just highs, Eileen Fowler,
hey,
and then of course Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Just saying hi to Dan.
See, my family loves you. Or loves me.
Yeah, they love you. It looks like.
Yeah.
My family couldn't be bothered, apparently.
So picking after Detroit is Carolina. I know that there's still a possibility that they look at the quarterback position. I don't think they do. I think they gave up 3 or 4, not first round, but 3 or 4 picks to get Sam Darnold. They still have Teddy Bridgewater there, so are they going to move on from him, or are they really going to bring in 3 potential starting quarterbacks? So I definitely do not think that they go quarterback, even though some people are talking about him there. But the pick is in. This is Sully's pick. Who did Carolina go with at number 8?
I don't remember, but I'm assuming I went Rashawn Slater.
You did.
Okay.
You did.
I truthfully don't remember, but that's what I have them going.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about teams that have Rashawn Slater higher. I think Carolina would be one of them. I think he fits exactly what Carolina wants to do as an offensive lineman, more than Penei Sewell, I guess. So he may be one of those guys that's rated higher on a certain team's board. But again, you're getting a blue chip guy at tackle, and I think that's kind of where Carolina needs to go. They've got some decent weapons in DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. I think, and obviously Christian McCaffrey. Protect Sam Darnold. Like, you got to protect this guy and give him a chance. And I think all of us on the panel agree he's got great arm talent. We think he has the ability to succeed. It's now more or less, can he be put in a situation where he can succeed?
Yeah, and I think the Carolina's coach, Matt Rule, specifically took this Carolina job because of the say that he was going to have in the player positions or personnel decisions. Rashawn Slater, to me, is a Matt Rule guy. Rule is an old school football head. He knows that battles are won in the trenches. He knows to get the ball to your playmakers. He knows in Carolina to do that, you're going to need to protect Sam Darnold, and that's exactly what he does here in this pick. I agree with Sully.
And it works out great for Darnold, too, who had no protection in New York, and now he maybe gets a little bit of protection. Plus, he has a run game now in Carolina if McCaffrey's healthy.
And their right tackle, Taylor Morton, is a solid. I mean, he's a top 10 right tackle. You know what I mean? He's great. So he's going to have a pair of bookends now, and then you fix the interior offensive line in the 3rd to 4th round, and you've got something going there in Carolina.
Yep.
The number 9 pick is the Denver Broncos, and the pick is in on there. I looked at this pick. It could go a bunch of different ways. I think they're going quarterback. I'll get into that in a second. But I think there is still talk that they could go defense. They could go Micah Parsons. They could go Patrick Surtain. They're saying that they are committed to Drew Lock. But despite what they're saying, I have the Denver Broncos choosing Trey Lance at number 9. I think he's the guy between him and Fields that they like better. I have Trey Lance going at number 9 to the Broncos.
I love Trey Lance. Sully, I'm curious your thoughts on this pick because I love Trey Lance. I don't love him in Denver.
I don't love Trey Lance. I like him a lot, but again, I've said my thoughts on Trey Lance. Right. I think he's the biggest project. He's also arguably the biggest lottery ticket. You know what I mean? Like he's got a chance to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I just don't see it right now. So I don't hate him in this system, though, because he's got a lot of talent around him there in Denver. Fair. I like Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Judy's stepped onto the field and was a top 3 route runner in this league.
KJ Hamler's great.
KJ Hamler's a stud out in the slot. Yeah. Noah Fant is an actual weapon from tight end. They've got the Cortland Sutton's supposed to be back and fully healthy, and then that team is scary good in my opinion. And maybe you give Drew Lock a chance to kind of start for Trey Lance and then work Trey Lance in. But I don't know. With Fields on the board, I think they would go Fields. I just think he kind of does everything better than Trey Lance other than a runner. And I don't know how important that is to Denver. But again, I don't think you could really miss with either of these guys here at this point. I mean, to get a guy like Trey Lance at 10 is insane. I mean, that's insane. It's nutso.
I will say, Wayne, I think it'd be foolish for Denver not to consider a quarterback because Drew Lock is I don't even know that his teammates have buy-in on him.
And it's not just that. Let's say you draft Trey Lance and Drew Lock comes out and has a tremendous season. Well, then you've got this guy, Trey Lance, that's worth, a boatload too. So, it's never a bad option to take a quarterback, in my opinion. They retain their value better than any other position. I mean, shit, the Jets just got a second for Sam Darnold, and the guy was awful for 3 years.
That's a good
So,
point.
you know what I mean? Quarterbacks retain their value. It's never really a bad idea to take one if you feel like if you don't have an Aaron Rodgers, if you don't have a Tom Brady, even still a Tom Brady, you should probably take one. But if you don't have a Patrick Mahomes, a Russell, like these guys that are cemented and aren't going anywhere, then think about, I think a quarterback should always be an option.
Well, next up is the Dallas Cowboys at number 10. I will say the Patriots came calling for this pick, and I think that this is the pick where it makes the most sense.
This is what I have that in my draft.
Because
Dallas isn't moving. Dallas isn't moving off 10.
They're looking for a linebacker or a cornerback, and that guy's going to be there at 15, so they could move back and get extra picks.
See, I think that's where we're all wrong too. I think they may move back and get the first edge rusher off the board, because I think edge is a huge need for them too. But anyway, I think they're in a perfect spot to move back. Perfect spot.
Okay.
Nick has the pick, so he'll tell us.
Yeah.
Who Dallas takes the 10.
I have Dallas taking the most practical pick in this situation, Patrick Surtain out of University of Alabama. He is the best cornerback in this draft. He is an elite corner coming out of this draft. He fits an immediate need for the Dallas Cowboys because their defense is awful, is putting it lightly. I don't see how they can justify not taking Patrick Surtain. I think that their fan base feels that way as well. I know several Cowboys fans who are earmarked Patrick Surtain in this spot. I think that the rumors, a lot of mock drafts I've been seeing have Patrick Surtain going here. It just makes perfect sense. The Cowboys trade out of this pick. These are one of the situations where I can totally understand Cowboys fans creating a mutiny on Jerry Jones.
Well, and here's my counter to that is, all right, they trade out of 10. All right, the Giants not taking a corner. The Eagles most likely not going to take a corner if Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith are there. The Chargers.
I think the Giants, or if Surtain goes past Dallas, he won't get past Philadelphia or New York.
See, I think everybody on the planet has Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith ahead of Patrick Surtain. So if those wide receivers are there, they're going to take him. And in this mock, Micah Parsons is there. So, yeah. I mean, if the Giants or the Eagles will jump on him as well, who's also a universally higher rated prospect. The Chargers not going to take a corner. The Vikings maybe. So then you go down to 15, and J.C. Horn is. I mean, I think Surtain's the best, but it's just a split with the Slater Sewell is who's the number one corner. A lot of people have J.C. Horn as the number one. So worst case scenario, you move down to 15, gain an extra pick, and still get a corner you love in J.C. Horn. I think it makes a ton of sense. But if you're locked into Surtain, I don't hate it because Surtain I think has the lowest floor of any player in this entire draft. He is not going to be a bad cornerback. He may not be an all-pro. He may not be a Pro Bowl, things like that. He will not be a bad player. He will be a starter for 10 years no matter what. I don't think his floor is any below that. Just he's so pro-ready and already understands the game so well. His floor is so low.
He makes that Dallas defense – yeah. He makes that Dallas defense better the second he puts that hat on.
I agree. I think J.C. Horn does as well, but I mean, I agree.
It's a low bar. It's a low bar on that.
Yeah, I'm always in favor of moving down. So,
yeah. And then we have our first trade at 11. The first trade on the board was the Chicago Bears trade. They get number 11. They get number 116. The Giants get number 20, number 164, and they get a first-round pick next year. I am going to say this because I mentioned Sully being a little bit vindictive, and he said to trade up to number 7, and I didn't because I thought I could get my guy at 10, and then Nick didn't want to trade with me. So then I offered Sully the same deal. I said, Sully, I will give you 2 first-round picks. I get back a third, right? And we swap 4 picks. So I just move up 4 spots. And Sully's response was, the Giants don't want to give the Patriots the next franchise quarterback, so I'm going to give it to the Bears.
Which I think is a true statement. And it's also I looked at it like this. The Giants I know have never moved back, and Dave Gettleman doesn't. However,
doesn't move back.
There's a ton of smoke this year they're moving. There's a ton of smoke that they want to move back. They are going to move back. Dave Gettleman has left the door open. So I'm not the only one that is predicting the Giants to move back. I'll say that. Also, the Bears' first rounder next year is worth infinitely more than a Patriots first rounder next year. So I think that's also where it came into play for me in wanting to move back. Washington, I think, is a viable option to make a big jump if somebody like Justin Fields is there as well. If New England, now I didn't even ask for a counter, which I probably should have, but if New England would have came back with their first this year, their first next year, and their second this year, I'd have had to have taken it. I don't know if they would have been up for that. I think they should have with Justin Fields. But again, the trade with the Bears is more what you're getting next year in that probable top 5 pick next year in the draft.
And like I said, as a bandwagon Giants fan, if they trade the opportunity to draft a guy like J.C. Horn or a guy like Micah Parsons or a guy like Rashawn Slater or a guy like Rashawn Slater, even Jalen Waddle, I can understand. Don't take him. If you pass on an opportunity to take Micah Parsons, J.C. Horn, or Rashawn Slater at that number 11, that is absolutely unforgivable. They're in a position to take the best player available. The Giants are very close as a unit, especially a defensive unit. Joe Judge has that team in tip-top shape. You don't trade down in this situation.
Well, in case we didn't tip our hand, who are the Chicago Bears going to take with that pick now that they got it?
The Chicago Bears take Justin Fields, quarterback out of Ohio State, who will not be here at 11. Not going to happen. Will not be here at 11. But, I mean, if he's there, I'd trade the house for him at that point. I really do think he's worth every penny of it at 11. You know what I mean? I mean, I think I'd trade a lot to get to 4 to grab him, so I can only imagine what I'd trade to get to 11 to grab him.
We have Trey Lance. I just realized we have Trey Lance going above Justin Fields in our draft. So
yeah, I have it in mind too. In my real one,
I like it. I have
Trey Lance going to San Francisco, and I have him as a worse prospect. I just think he fits better in San Francisco. And I, from everything I hear, their scouting department loves Trey Lance. But Justin Fields, I mean, he fits universally. I think in offenses, they don't have to give up a ton of picks to get him. Because they're only coming up 9 spots, and to give up the first next year and then a 4th this year is it's a price, because again, that first round pick next year is worth gold. But I think it makes a ton of sense, and it really, I think has the ability to make Chicago legitimate at that point.
I will say I was very, very upset about the Patriots not getting Justin Fields because if I'm being honest, he's the guy I want them to get the most.
You should have traded up to 7.
Yeah, well, and I didn't expect a vindictive trade.
You don't expect vindictive owners in the NFL, then you're wild, bro.
Well, not like, hey, they were straight up to there. So now
and here's the real truth behind it. So I watched a thing from the Colts in their Sam Darnold trade, and they were like, "Look, we're at 3. We just had Andrew Luck. We know we don't need a quarterback here, and we know the Jets do. We're going to charge the world. We know you have 4 second-rounders next year. We're going to charge the world for it." And I truthfully think teams are going to do that to the Patriots. They're going to be like, look, we're not setting up another dynasty. Give us the world or no, or kind of figure it out yourself. I think you underestimate how many people around the league hate the Patriots.
I believe it. And that brought us to pick 12. And, of course, I'm sulking at this point. But I wanted to stay in character as doing what I think is going to happen, what I think the Eagles are looking to do, and I think they're taking a wide receiver, and it's going to be Jalen Waddle here at number 12. I think he's the best receiver left on the board, and I think that they desperately need somebody for Jalen Hurts to throw to because their receiving core was absolutely – I can't name one of them. I can't name a single one of them.
Oh, of course you can. Aguilar, right?
Yeah, Nelson Aguilar.
Nelson Aguilar, I thought was Aguilar was with the Raiders.
Yeah. Oh, well, then I don't know.
Case in point, we can't name anybody.
Greg Ward. And Jalen Reagor. That's right. Who I actually like a lot. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jalen Reagor. So it's not shy around it. I think Jalen Waddle's better than Devontae Smith. So I love the pick here. I think he has – look, I mean – for the rest of time now, like people compare quarterbacks to Patrick Mahomes, a lot of people are going to compare receivers to Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle is not Tyreek Hill, but he is the closest thing you're going to find to Tyreek Hill in this draft. He gets from 0 to 100 faster than any other player in this draft. That includes Rondale Moore. He is just a freak of nature. I'm pretty sure his short shuttle was a 4.09, which is just, absolutely insane. He's just insanely quick and talented and the truest playmaker in this draft, in my opinion, at the wide receiver position.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Philly take a corner here.
Either would I.
JC Moore and something like I wouldn't be surprised to see him do that.
Micah Parsons here makes a ton of sense as well.
Right.
I wouldn't be. We talked about the Giants taking Parsons. Gettleman takes linebackers as often as he trades down. So I don't know if they go Parsons, but I think Philadelphia may be keying in on Parsons here. But I wouldn't pass Waddle either, if I'm being fair. So
yeah, but Gettleman, I will give him credit. He also does take the elite talents when he sees them. He drafted Saquon Barkley second. So, you know.
That's worked out for you.
I did year one. You can't predict injury.
Who went 3 that year? Oh, Sam Darnold went 3 that year. That's right.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
You're never going Sam Darnold. Honest, Sam Darnold can't be worse than Danny Dimes. Let's be real.
I don't know. I'm in on Danny Dimes. I'm still in on Danny Dimes.
Well, what gives credence to the Parsons take for the Eagles as well is that I did read a report today. Again, all smoke. Everyone's blowing smoke right now. But the Eagles basically came out and said, or somebody came out and said on their behalf, they love Kwity Paye. They think that he's phenomenal. They really like him. They want to take him. I don't think they could take him at 12. I think they trade back a little bit, right? But
you could. Yeah, if theoretically you could. That's where I think Jalen Phillips goes pretty high. I don't know. This edge class is so weird to me because, again, I don't think you want to be the first person to take an edge because I don't see really difference between Kwity Paye and Jason Owe, at 1 through 5, and that's depending on how you have them with Jalen Phillips, and Azeez Ojulari in there as well, and then Joe Tyron too. It's just you're going to get the same guy at 30 as you are at 12 if you pick one at 12. So that would be my issue with taking one, but I don't know. Again, if you're going to try and tell me they have Jalen Waddle or they have Kwity Paye as a better talent than Jalen Waddle, that's just woo.
The LA Chargers pick is in at number 13. And again, this is Nick's pick. So who did you have the Chargers going with?
I have the Chargers protecting their biggest asset, Justin Herbert, with the kid from USC, tackle Elijah Vera Tucker. To me, this is a no-brainer. I do think it's possible the Chargers trade down in this draft, but while they didn't do that in our mock draft, I have them here. This makes perfect sense to me. Kid that played at USC, elite tackle talent. Quite frankly, I think that he's very, very good at his position. He's not going to be a guy that you can really move around, in my opinion, on the offensive line. But again, he protects your greatest asset, which is Justin Herbert, and that defense is already pretty good. This pick makes the most sense to me.
See, I disagree on a lot of fronts there. He's, in my opinion, better at guard. He was a guard the year before.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago, and only allowed a single pressure all year. Is I think an elite guard. I do think he can be a good tackle, but I just think he's an elite guard. I like Christian Darrisaw here. I think Christian Darrisaw is just a really kind of special tackle. I think he's just a notch behind these other guys, Slater and Sewell. But again, I don't hate the Vera Tucker pick. I don't not like it at all. I think he has every chance to go there and be a great player. And again, as long as you're protecting Justin Herbert, I think it's great. In my mock, I actually have them trading up, and Penei Sewell drops past the Bengals, and I have them trading up and grabbing Penei Sewell, or Rashawn Slater for that matter, whichever one they like more. But I think they're in a real kind of keen spot to maybe if a tackle drops to move up and get ahead of a team like the Giants or somebody like that and try and grab a tackle. But again, as long as they get somebody that's protecting Justin Herbert, I don't care what they do.
Yeah, and it was tough for me. I really did have to decide between Darrisaw and Tucker and Vera Tucker with this pick. I went Vera Tucker simply for the California connection. Kid's playing at USC. He would stay out there. You know what I mean? In California.
There's nothing really wrong with it.
If Penei Sewell drops away from Cincinnati, Joe Burrow needs to request a trade immediately on draft day.
Again, maybe we don't know. Maybe it's Joe Burrow pressing Jamar Chase because he wants his boy in there. You know what I mean?
Right. Then Joe Burrow's an idiot. Burrow's an idiot. You know what I mean?
Because the rumors is Justin Herbert's pressing his front office to move up and get his guy Penei Sewell, who played with at Oregon.
Yeah, at Oregon. That's right.
So those are the kind of the rumors floating around there. Is he's kind of pressing them to, hey, look, if he drops at all, we need to go get him. So I'd love that. Either way, again, like I said, as long as they come away with a tackle and start protecting Justin Herbert, because he was the number one passer while under pressure. That's a stat that changes every single season because it's impossible to kind of duplicate that success. And so I don't think, if he's put in that situation again, I doubt we see the same things out of Justin Herbert as we did last year.
Yep.
The Vikings pick at number 14. And this was Sully's pick, and I know you said Vera Tucker. You can go wrong either way. Who do you have with the Vikings?
Christian Darrisaw, the offensive tackle here.
Gotta protect Kirk Cousins. You
gotta protect
your.
Honestly, he's just a smooth mover, big guy. I mean, plays with a great level. I'm a big fan of Christian Darrisaw. I think he's got a chance to go higher, truthfully. There's talk that the Redskins, the football team, live feed, folks, that the football team want to move up and grab Christian Darrisaw. They're in love with the kid, apparently. Want to keep him in Virginia, kind of, that same area. So if he goes at 14, I think it's a steal. So, but again, I think there's a ton of talent at the top end of this draft. And then it probably like pick 15, 16, I think it kind of falls off. And then it's a little different in talent, in my opinion. But man, I think Darrisaw, Vera Tucker, whichever way you have them in this spot, if they're there at 13, 14, they're going 13, 14.
Well, the Patriots were on the board at number 15, and this is the whole reason that I picked where I did was so I could have the Patriots. I got told to shove it at number 10. I got told to stick it at number 11, and so I had to
move up to 7.
I had to stick with 15, and my philosophy is this when it comes to the Patriots. If they don't move up, if they stay at 15, they stay at 15 to get either Patrick Surtain or Micah Parsons. If both of those guys are gone, I think they trade back. In our draft, the Patriots take Micah Parsons at number 15. He's still there, and I think what a phenomenal fit. Obviously, Hightower is coming back, but I think that this guy with his 4.38 40 and just his nose for the football and just everything about him, I think Bill Belichick's going to be in love, and this is a guy who's going to be a defensive captain for 10 years.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, at this point, it's a steal at 15 that I don't really – he may be there because of his off-field stuff and really just people undervalue off-ball linebackers, but I don't think he'll be used as an off-ball linebacker, if I'm being honest. In this scheme, he'll blitz – I'm guessing 80% of the time, and be used as a rusher from different spots, which if you can watch on tape, that's what he does best. The kid moves downhill like no other. Now, obviously, he's agile and has the ability to cover as well and won't be a liability dropping back. But his strongest suit is moving forward, diagnosing plays, and just essentially beating guys to the spot because that's what he does so well. He's a perfect fit in that defense, Brian Flores' defense. I think
Patricia's defense now.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I know. I'm saying other defenses he'd be good in. Schemes like that are kind of man heavy. That
New York Giants,
that are man heavy that rely on blitzing from places to get pressure. I think he's just going to absolutely excel in. And obviously, if anybody's going to bring the best out of Micah Parsons, it's going to be Bill Belichick. Who?
Yeah, and
I just remembered has Huskies. I mean, how can I not love Bill Belichick?
Right. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I love Micah Parsons here. I think if you're New England, you almost have to take him. There is the off-field questions. I realize that, but I followed Penn State football for a really long time. They've had some really talented linebackers come out of there. Matt Rule was one of those talented linebackers, but you can go, Sean Lee LeVar Arrington, Paul Posluszny, all guys like that. I mean, they bring out some really talented players at linebacking positions, and LeVar Arrington said himself that he's never seen a talent at the program like Micah Parsons. That speaks volumes to me.
I think the thing that I liked about him when I was putting the game film together or trying to go through and put the highlights together, he really reminded me a lot of Jamie Collins, who I think did really well in that Patriots.
He's way more athletic than Jamie Collins.
I think he can drop back and cover much better than Jamie Collins, but the way he attacks downhill is very Jamie Collins-esque.
Yep.
Again, a guy who can blitz that efficiently and yet still not be a liability, dropping back is really difficult to find.
It's a bigger Isaiah Simmons. Sully, you hit the nail on the head. He's a bigger version of Isaiah Simmons.
At number 16, we have the Arizona Cardinals. This is Nick's pick, so who did they go with?
I have them going with J.C. Horn and the University of South Carolina. I can see them beefing up the defense. If J.C. Horn, guy like that's available here at this pick for Arizona, I think you got to scoop him up. I mean, they just grabbed Malcolm Butler, right? Great guy to pair with Malcolm Butler. And to Sully's point, I think Surtain is the best corner in this draft, but I also think that it's close. And J.C. Horn is that guy who's up there with Surtain. He's a great cover corner. I think that he's versatile enough to be able to cover your slot guy. I think he's good in press coverage situations, and Arizona likes to gamble a lot with their scheme, so I think that he fits in that system as well. But I'm curious, Sully's thoughts on this.
Oh, he fits to a T. I mean, I don't think he'll excel in anything but press man. And that's what they run. And I mean, he's going to have to be less handsy, but I mean, you don't mind a guy coming in and being handsy. He just does it. I mean, he mirrors receivers and plays so well in man coverage. It's scary. And that's exactly what they run there in Arizona. So I think it's a perfect pick. I think Christian Barmore is a very good option here as well. I think they're going to need to beef that defensive lineup. They've essentially got J.J. Watt and really nobody else because, we can include Chandler Jones and things, but they play edge rusher, not defensive line. So it's a little different. But regardless, I would go J.C. Horn here. That's what I've got them going in my draft as well. So,
good replacement for Patrick Peterson.
Yeah.
The Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders, pick is in with them at number 17. And Sully, I have a take on this, but who did they go with?
They go Jalen Phillips, edge player out of Miami. This was a rough one, I think, for Vegas because this is where I think it's tough to draft for need in this spot because I don't see any needs that really line up with value here outside of edge rusher. I don't think Cleveland Farrell is obviously the answer. And Max Crosby is purely a rotational player in my opinion. You come in and get a guy like Jalen Phillips who is everything you look for in an edge player. He's tall, he's long, he's athletic, he's strong, he's physical, he's everything you want outside of, the concussion issues. Former 5-star recruit, so he's got the pedigree. I think he's just a guy that Gruden and them are going to fall in love with over there in Las Vegas.
I was surprised, Sully, that you didn't want to pick somebody to protect your boy, David Carr. I
don't love the tackle options there.
Yeah.
Tevin Jenkins is probably my next best tackle on the board, and I don't love him at 17. I don't have him, I've got him at I think I've got him at like 30 something on my board, 28, something like that. So I don't love him at 17. I'm a board kind of stricken guy, dude. I'm going to take the best player I think that can be used, not necessarily fills a need. So that's where I went there. I know Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is getting a ton of love there, but he doesn't fit whatsoever. Yes, they need a linebacker, but not one like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. So I don't think he fits there at all. I wouldn't love Christian Barmore there. I do love Christian Barmore. I don't think I'd love him there just because I don't think he has the impact that a Jalen Phillips has. So,
when we were preparing, I'm looking at who I'm going to pick next, and my pick was coming up for the Dolphins here at pick number 18. I really had my heart set on Jalen Phillips. I was like, this is the guy I'm taking. I figured there's no way that Sully was going to take him. I didn't think Nick was going to take him before I did. So I thought, this is going to be a perfect pick for Miami. Because like Sully said, I think Miami needs a tackle here, but it's too high to take anyone who's on the board still. So edge is their next need. And I thought Jalen Phillips, he's from Miami, like Nick did with the hometown connection. I thought, perfect, we'll have Jalen Phillips Miami. And as soon as I may have called Sully a profanity when he drafted him, but I had to change course fairly quickly, and I took Kwity Paye out of Michigan for them. They still get an edge. It's not the guy that they wanted, but it is the guy that the Eagles apparently wanted 6 picks earlier. So I guess in that sense, it's a decent pick for them.
I like it. I think at this spot, I think Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is 100% the pick. I think Brian Flores would sprint the card in. He is built to a T for that system, and I don't see really any way they would be able to pass on him. Now, I do think edge rusher is a need. I do think they end up getting an edge rusher in this draft. So I don't dislike the pick at all. I actually have them trading back into the first round with New Orleans to take Kwity Paye in my draft. But again, that's at like 28. Again, that's just where I feel safer taking these edge guys. But yeah, with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah on the board, I think they jump all over that. But I don't hate the pick whatsoever.
At number 19, I'm not going to call it a reach, but this is the first one I thought might have been. Who did the Washington football team decide to take here?
I have the Washington football team. Yeah, I have the Washington football team taking the finesse blocker that is Alex Leatherwood from the University of Alabama. I think they need to protect their asset, which is Ryan Fitzpatrick at this point. And the defense is already elite, right? Like they were the top-ranked defense in the NFL last year. I think he played a really good left tackle, albeit on a very good offensive line unit. But I think that there is room for Leatherwood to grow, right? But I can see him high on teams' draft boards because of his skill set. I mean, his biggest issue right now is his strength. Right? That's something that can be coached up, in my opinion. And I think like Ron Rivera is a perfect guy to coach that up in a player. So I could see Leatherwood a lot higher on boards than right now what he's projecting. I have him going there. I realize, Sully had talked about like Tevin Jenkins, for example, or a guy like that, maybe in this spot. But I went Leatherwood. He's got the pedigree. He's blocked some really good defensive talent at Alabama, and I think he's going to be higher on draft boards than a lot of people suspect.
I don't know. I can't get behind him this high. I just can't. I agree they need an offensive, but this is where this is the instance that I talk about why teams fail, in my opinion. You've got a need, you're setting a need, you draft a guy at a position of need. Well, he's probably like the 40th best player on the board. So you take him at 19 and you're in a spot where it's like, now we're trying to fit this guy. Take the 20th best player on the board. You know what I mean? Like they've got a need at corner. Caleb Farley's right there. I know it's a gamble, but Caleb Farley's, I think, a great fit for Washington. Even Greg Newsome, if you want to go there, you're eventually going to have to pay all these guys. This Daron Payne, Montez Sweat, Chase Young, all these guys you're going to have to eventually pay. Maybe draft a Christian Barmore so you don't have to worry about paying Daron Payne. All of those things, I think, make more sense than reaching for a need, in my opinion. Now, do I think Alex Leatherwood's going to be a decent player in the NFL? I actually do. I think he's going to be a very successful guard in the NFL. But would I take him at 19? I probably wouldn't. I do think it's the first kind of like real reach of the draft, but there's going to be one. Like everybody's going to have.
And why not the Washington football team? They don't even have a name. They don't even have a name. Exactly. I gambled on the reach. You guys gambled on the trade.
Hey, I understand. Hey, I'm not. I didn't knock the pick. I just said I couldn't get behind it. Somebody's going to have a player higher than I'm going to have a player on a board. Plain and simple. Right. You know what I mean? Like teams are going to do that. Now, thank God Seattle's not in the first round, so we don't have to worry what third round prospect Seattle's going to take in the first. Right. But you never know who else is going to throw a monkey wrench in there. And I guess I could see somebody falling in love with Alex Leatherwood. I think somebody like Samuel Cosmi has a better chance of going a lot higher just because of his pass blocking traits and his success on doing it both the left and the right side. But it's not a terrible pick. I do think it's a reach, but I don't think it's a bad pick.
Shit, Wayne would have Samuel Cosby going top 10 if he had his say.
I love me some Samuel Cosby. I'm not gonna lie. So,
Well, and what I'll say about the pick is that you're talking people who love Leatherwood. I love Alex Leatherwood. I actually think he's going to be a really good football player in the NFL. And I kept thinking, like, man, everybody's got this guy projected like 55, 45. I'm like, somebody's going to get a really good player late. And then when you took him so high, I was like, well, I wouldn't have taken him that high. It made me think, like, and I've had this conversation with people, right? Is like, if there's a 4th round cornerback, projected cornerback, right? And you take him in the 1st round and he turns out to be Deion Sanders, like the guy who everyone is compared to from here on out. It's still a bad draft pick because you could have gotten him 3 rounds later.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I get you.
And that's a huge statement that I don't think a lot of people understand. You have to understand and that's what we're talking about with Mac Jones to San Francisco earlier. Is even if Mac Jones turns out to win 4 Super Bowls, if you could have got him at 7 because of the rest of the league feels like you could have got him at 7, I don't love the trade. But again, I digress. It doesn't matter. Quarterback, I think, is an outlier too because it really affects the entire franchise.
Yeah, and my whole thinking behind it is at this point for like a tackle or a needs-based pick for the Washington football team, it's like I couldn't necessarily justify a guy like Cosme or even a guy like Tevin Jenkins. I mean, I couldn't. I could see it going any which way. I went Leatherwood because I think that I'll take a guy who blocked in the SEC, and I think a lot of NFL teams feel that way too.
I understand. I mean, I take a guy like I think Rashad Bateman fits really well there too. But I mean, it's all going to depend. I don't hate the pick. I don't hate it. I have them trading back, so
I can see that too. I was going to put a caveat saying I could see him trading back.
Yeah, I got them trading back because reports are the Jets love Tevin Jenkins. Are actually absolutely in love with him, and Pittsburgh as well, and Tennessee. So all those teams are literally at 21, 22, 23. They're all right there. I think one's going to have to move up, and I've got the Jets moving up because they have the most ammo. So I've got them moving up and taking Tevin Jenkins at 19. Now, again, he's playing right tackle at that point because you've got the Hog Molly playing left. So I think that works a lot better. I don't think I love Tevin Jenkins in Washington's system at left tackle. He's a power guy. So
yeah.
Now, at number 20, it's time for the New York Giants to make good on that pick that they traded back. Who are they taking with the 20 pick?
I'm taking a guy that I bet Dave Gettleman literally thinks about when he's with his wife, and that's Jason Oweh.
I hope not. I hope Dave Gettleman does not think about Jason Oweh that highly. I'm a Penn State guy. I don't think about Jason Oweh that.
You should. I
don't know, man. I've seen Jason Oweh play. I just a lot.
I think he was criminally underutilized at Penn State. They had him drop back into coverage and things like that.
They did.
And not really kind of they had to, and not really exclusively rush the passer. He is the biggest athletic freak we've seen in a long time, but he also, I think, knows how to put it together. He's for only being 250, he is stout against the run. He anchors really well and is able to play. Now, is he going to be your strong side defensive end? Of course not. But I don't think he's a liability. He's never going to get mauled over in the run game. And truthfully, if there's anything I know Dave Gettleman loves, it's athletic defensive linemen. I think he would really enjoy the chance to move back, gain a top 5 pick next year, most likely, and then also get an athletic defensive lineman. The linebacker class is incredibly deep. I understand Micah Parsons is head and shoulders above, but there are plenty, like Nick Bolton in the second is a real possibility. And Jabril Cox in the second is a real possibility. Shit, even Zaven Collins, although I doubt he plays off-ball linebacker now that he weighs 270. But, I mean, there's a lot of linebacker talent in this draft. Shit, even Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah may go here at this point if Dave Gettleman really falls in love with like that hybrid linebacker kind of play. But, yeah, I just love Jason Oweh's ceiling. I mean, a guy at 6'5", 250 that runs a 4.3 but also moves laterally as well as he does is extremely difficult to find.
Dave Gettleman, I will say if you're listening to this show right now that you made a great hire in Joe Judge and you look like a genius for that Odell Beckham trade. And if you do this, people will be calling for your head if you trade out of that 11.
Unless Jason Oweh comes out and has 10 sacks year one, dude. TJ
Watt. If that happens, I'll eat these words. Save the report.
So he could be Dwight Freeney. He could be Barkevious Mingo, right?
Right.
I don't see Markevius Mingo because I think he's not as frail for one.
Right.
He's much more stout, but think more Josh Allen for the Jags. I think is a decent comp for him. Now, granted, I don't want him playing off ball that often, but I think that's like kind of the athlete and player he can be.
He's a project.
He's a huge project. Huge project.
So I had mentioned earlier that Sully's vindictiveness cost me Justin Fields early, but this made me laugh late, which is I was shopping the pick at 21 for the Colts because I had a guy in my mind who I want them to take, and I felt like I could get him later. And so I was like, all right, well, 21's on the board. And Nick came in and said, nobody wants it. Teams don't trade for picks in the 20. And then Sully said, like 3 teams did last year and 2 the year before. And then he private messaged me. He goes, I think the Browns are sitting number 21.
So this is a trade I actually have happening in my actual mock as well. Now, granted, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is gone in my draft. Well, spoiler alert, the Browns take Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the linebacker / safety hybrid from Notre Dame. So this is a trade I actually have happening to begin with anyway, but it's for Christian Barmore, who I went back and forth on who I wanted to in this pick because they have nobody at defensive tackle right now. Absolutely no one. And Christian Barmore fitting into that defensive line with Jadeveon Clowney and then Myles Garrett just makes a ton of sense. But I am probably Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah's biggest fanboy. I think he is the bee's knees. I really do. He reminds me so much of Tyrann Mathieu that like it's scary. Except he's bigger because he's 6'1", 212, but he moves the exact same way. He reads the game as well. He rushes the passer as well. He's just a guy who I cannot see being a bad football player. Like plain and simple. Take all his athletic ability away, and he is a great football player. Now add into the fact that he's a super insane athlete that can probably redefine the linebacker position. And I mean, it's just, I think he's everything you're looking for in a game where you're getting more speed on the offense. So you've got to get more speed on defense. And so your linebackers have to have the versatility to cover, running backs and tight ends and things, and also still be able to defend the run. And that's Owusu-Koramoah in a nutshell, in my opinion.
What I love the most about him, again, putting together the highlight reels and basically seeing all the plays, is the motor's always running. He never slows down. He's 100 miles per hour across the whole field the whole time.
He's Tyrann Mathieu. I'm telling you, he's just 6'2" or 6 foot, 220 pound Tyrann Mathieu instead of 5'8", 170 pound Tyrann Mathieu.
At number 22, the pick is in. We haven't done the jingle in a little bit. And the Tennessee Titans, who did they go with, Nick?
I have the Tennessee Titans taking Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech. I actually really like this pick. I know, Sully, you like the pick too. It was weird because like a couple months ago we were having conversations about Caleb Farley potentially being the first corner taken in this draft. So after pro days and things like that, that sort of tempered that kind of expectation. But I think it goes to show you the elite level of talent that he brings to a team, and I think he's a perfect fit. Quite frankly, in Tennessee, I think that they're going to be looking to obviously replace Jackson, Adoree Jackson, who went to the New York Giants, and Caleb Farley. I think
there are other corners left too. They're down both their starting corners from.
That's what I mean. So this is a need. This is a need for them. And if Caleb Farley's there, I think it's quite frankly, Caleb Farley could be the steal of this draft if he goes this late.
Yeah, the issue with him is his back. So he's had microfusion back surgery.
Right.
Which is the Tony Romo back injury.
Right.
And also, who else? Somebody else had the same thing. And the issue is it's usually a reoccurring thing. So, like, in 4 or 5 years, what's he going to be? Is he going to be the same? Like, yeah, he may be the same athlete he is now for the next 2 or 3 years. But a lot of those times, those guys play declines and falls off a cliff. So that's kind of the worry with him. Talent-wise, he's easily the number one corner in this draft. He's going to run a 4.2. He's 6'2". He's 210. He's a monster. I love him. I have Washington gambling on him in my no trade mock, and then Greg Newsome I have going here. But again, I think the pick has to be a cornerback, in my opinion. They lost both their starters, and this is like the range I think that just fits for both of these guys. So.
And at 23, the New York Jets are selecting where the Seahawks would. This is their Jamal Adams compensation. And the pick is in for the Jets. Sully, who did you have them taking here?
I just mentioned his name, and that's Greg Newsome. He is just flown up boards. He's such a well-rounded player at Northwestern. Again, these kids are only 20. It's just wild. So he is not the same as J.C. Horn. Well, J.C. Horn is a press man. That's all he is. I think Greg Newsome's a little better on off coverage. Now, again, I don't think he's going to be in a bind if he plays man. I think he's a little more versatile than J.C. Horn is. But what J.C. Horn does in man coverage is just so special and so coveted by teams. He's going to go much higher. But Greg Newsome, when it's all said and done, like dead honest, may be the best corner in this draft. Like his ceiling's so high. He's such a fundamentally sound player. He's uber athletic. He's not like the most stout guy. You're like he only weighs 190. You'd like him to get a little thicker, you would think, but like I don't think he gets bullied either. So it's just kind of pick your poison with him. But I love the fit there in New York. So there's rumors they may move up for him and not attack. So
that'd be crazy if they moved up and took a corner.
Corner's such a big need for Jacksonville, though. I mean, for New York, like the Jets need a corner bad, and I feel like if they fall again. The way analytics is trending in the NFL, cornerback is more valued than edge, and so you're gonna see a lot of corners go really high.
Well, at 24, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I know a lot of the mock drafts, and I mean a lot of them have him taking Najee Harris here. They do need offensive line help still, and I kind of subscribed to Sully's philosophy. I don't know if the Steelers do, of don't take a running back in the first round. And so I had them taking Samuel Cosmi here at tackle from Texas, a big 6'7", monster of a guy. He plays Steelers football. He's a down and dirty blocker. I think he fits in there perfectly.
I love the pick, personally. I truthfully, I love it. I don't expect it to happen. I think they go either Najee Harris or Asante Samuel Jr. here probably. But I'm a huge Cosmi fan. I think he starts at left or right tackle for them immediately, day one, and is a player you can count on. I just don't really see a lot in his game that, like, you don't think's going to be good. Like, he mirrors well. He deals with second moves well. He's a guy who's in the film room all the time and talks about it all the time. And those kind of guys usually succeed on the offensive line. He's a smart player that again, succeeded on the right side and the left side, which I think can't be said enough in today's game. So I love the pick. Do I think it'll happen? Absolutely not. But I love the pick. I don't think the Steelers would ever do that. There's talk they're going to take Landon Dickerson at 28, which I don't hate, but if you take Landon Dickerson over Samuel Cosmi, that's just wild to me. But they love centers in Pittsburgh. They love centers. So
I know Nick wasn't a huge fan of the pick, and probably especially since I had criticized the Leatherwood pick and then kind of making a little bit of a reach myself.
Yeah. That's okay. It's okay. He was your guy, so I knew he was going to go in the first round.
If Tevin Jenkins is there, the Steelers will take him, though, over Samuel Cosmi. The reports aren't shy about them really being in love with him. So I would expect it. I did see Tevin Jenkins is on the board. That will more than likely be the pick if he's available there.
25, Jacksonville's second pick. And they went, obviously, quarterback, number one overall. But, Nick, who do you have them taking here at 25?
I have Jacksonville taking Trevon Moehrig from Texas Christian University. I actually, so truth be told, I didn't know a lot about him. And I have my boss actually is a Texas Christian alumni and watches a lot of football, told me to check him out. So I did watch a lot of film on him. And he's the type of safety who will make a 4-3 receiver look like they're running a 4-6. There was film that I watched Trevon Moehrig playing, and he looked bored at times as to how well he was tracking down the opposition receiver. He's just good. His hips are good. His hands. He plays tight in coverage. He's a free safety, good size, going to run a 4.5, and he fits a need for Jacksonville. They have a pretty decent defense, but they could use some help in that safety position, and I think they go there because I do think Morig's the best player available for based on need at that pick for them.
I don't know if I see the pick, but that's just truthfully because I don't know what Jacksonville's going to do. I love Trevon Moehrig. I love the fit. Yeah. I love the pick. I love it all. I just don't know if I actually see Jacksonville doing that. I think it'd be hard for them to pass on like a Kadarius Toney there, a Rashad Bateman there.
Maybe an offensive lineman. I thought
maybe
an
offensive
right?
lineman. Yeah. Granted they're gone in our board, but if like a Samuel Cosme or somebody like that's there, I think they may do that because
Alex
Cam Robinson.
Leatherwood. Alex Leatherwood.
Because Cam Robinson's only on the 1-year franchise tag, so I think they're going to have to figure out tackle. Now I think they're set on the inside, but I think they'll have to figure out tackle, especially too because Jawan Taylor I don't think is anything special at right tackle. But I mean, you hit Trevon Moehrig on the head. The guy is, I mean, he holds the record for most pass deflections by a safety in the PFF era. He has. I think he had 13 last year, which is just insane from a safety. He's just always around the ball. He's got a nose for it. He's not going to be a box safety, but he has the ability to come down and make plays in the box. I love his overall game, and honestly, he fits any team. So any team that needs a safety is going to need Trevon Moehrig. So I like it there in Jacksonville. I have him going to Baltimore, but I like the pick at Jacksonville.
I like the Baltimore fit too, to be quite honest.
I like him a lot. When I watched the tape again, he closes really fast. And the thing I like the most about him is he is such a good tackler. Like he tackles so well, which I think free safeties don't necessarily always. Usually really good in coverage, playing that again. The free safety playing the ball in the air, which he does well. But I think his tackling ability is really, really impressive.
Yeah, he's an impressive football player.
At 26, this is the pick that the Colts traded back for. They got their guy. This is actually the guy that I was looking at 21, and I really wanted to get at 26, which maybe is why I kind of passed on the Steelers. But that is Tevin Jenkins. And I got to say, I didn't know a whole lot about him. And watching the film, putting together the highlight reel, I got to say this guy mauls the crap out of everybody who lines up against him. I mean, he throws them. He's an absolute animal. I think any offensive line would love having this guy.
My issue is he's a pure right tackle. I don't see him being able to play left tackle in the NFL, and they already have Braden Smith at right tackle, so I don't necessarily love the fit. But I'm a big fan of Tevin Jenkins, so if they're able to make it work with him on the left, or maybe move Braden Smith to the left and then move Tevin Jenkins to the right, then so be it. I think they'd be hard pressed to pass an edge here, but again, which one are you going to take? I like Azeez Ojulari here, but I'm not really sure. I think they'd love some help next to DeForest Buckner, but I think they're in a tough spot here too. If they could, I think they'd trade back again from this pick. Honestly,
I have a question. Could we envision a scenario where the Dolphins perhaps trade down into the ability to get a guy like Trevon, to get a guy like Tevin Jenkins?
Trade back up? Yeah, of course.
Because my thinking behind that is, to Sully's point, he is a right tackle, but you have a left-handed quarterback in Miami.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, but it sounds like it would be a fit there too.
No, they do. Now, I think that Robert Hunt played well. So I think they're going to give him a shot. And then Austin Jackson's still, I think, the youngest tackle in the league, even with this incoming draft class. You know what I mean? So I think they need help at center and guard more. But I would not discount them trading back up for a player. Again, I'm always a fan of putting an elite tackle at guard because I think they'd be an elite guard at that point. So if they do move up for Tevin Jenkins, because he is a road mover, I think he'd be every bit of a successful right guard or left guard in the NFL. And then honestly, if Austin Jackson fails, then maybe you got a left tackle there or a right tackle at that point and put Robert Hunt at guard. I don't know. Anytime you're adding offensive linemen, I think you're doing something good. So they're going to get hurt. and you're going to need replacements. So.
So the Ravens pick at 27, and we did this before they traded Orlando Brown. They got the Chiefs' first-round pick. There's a lot of, again, smoke that they're going to trade these 2 late-round picks to try to move up and get a wide receiver like a Jalen Waddle to help out Lamar Jackson. But we didn't have that at the time, so I had them taking a linebacker. I have them taking Jamin Davis, athletic, long. I just think that he plays 100 miles an hour. Watching the tape on this guy, he doesn't take plays off. Again, 6'4", 234. I think he's just like the perfect fit for them, I think, at like a middle linebacker spot.
Yeah, I do think he's a good fit. I'd have loved to see Zaven Collins here. I mentioned that in the chat. I just think he's a little bit more what they look for. He's 6'4", 270. He's not going to move as well in coverage as Jamin Davis, but he's going to rush the passer much better, and I think kills the need of linebacker / edge that they just kind of like, where you can be like a 4-3 end or an outside linebacker. And then also, like you said, they mentioned they're heavy in play for a wide receiver. Kadarius Toney, Elijah Moore, Rashad Bateman. I would bet my life one of those 3 would be the pick here. But again, I love Jamin Davis as a player. I think he has a shot to go much, much, much earlier. So, yeah.
That was my thing, too, is I was thinking a kind of a steal because a lot of guys have him in their mock drafts like 14, 15, 16, and so I think getting him at, 21 or 27, whatever we're at, is pretty solid.
I mean, I think a lot of guys do that at it. So, I mean, I think positional, value is vastly important in the draft. So I would never spend a draft pick on a player that I'm not spending like a top 4 contract on it. And by that I mean, quarterback, offensive lineman, defensive end, corner, things like that. Things that are going to be, $20 million a year guys, I think are the guys you need to be drafting in the first round. So then you don't have to pay those guys again, essentially. Because the biggest waste I think you can do is give a guy who's not elite a second-year contract or a second contract, essentially.
The Saints pick at 28, and who is Jameis Winston? Is he going to be happy with this pick?
He better be happy with this pick. So I have the Saints at the 28th pick taking Kadarius Toney from the University of Florida, wide receiver. They have to replace Emmanuel Sanders, in my opinion, and Kadarius Toney's ceiling is Emmanuel Sanders. That's how I view him. I view him as that type of receiver. I think he fits into that system perfectly. It pained me to take Kadarius Toney over Rashad Bateman because, as Sully knows, I am a huge Rashad Bateman guy. Bateman doesn't necessarily fit because of Michael Thomas, in my opinion, whereas Kadarius Toney can play inside. You can put him in that slot position. He can take those Emmanuel Sanders-type opportunities in New Orleans.
I agree. I'm a big Kadarius Toney fan. I could see Elijah Moore here as well, and I could see Rondale Moore as well also. I think any of those 3 slot guys I think you could fit into there. The difference between Kadarius Toney is, he's 6'1", 190 and not 5'8" like the other 2 guys.
Yep.
So I think that's going to lend a lot of teams. Also, he does not play like he's 6'1", 190. You watch him and his highlight tape and the way he is aggressively running the football after the catch. He's so hard to bring down, in my opinion. Obviously I'm a Florida guy, so I'm going to homer up my guys, but I'm a huge fan of Kadarius Toney. And truthfully, I think he goes higher than this. I have him going Jacksonville. That's where I have him going. Urban Meyer, that Florida connection, baby. And I think, he would fit extremely well into that offense as well. So
I think he thrives. I think he thrives playing next to
Michael
an elite,
Thomas, for sure.
an elite guy like he did in college. I mean, he thrived off playing off Kyle Pitts.
So he's a big-bodied slot receiver. I think of Mohamed Sanu.
No, he's not that big, though. So he's 6'1", 190. I don't know how big Mohamed Sanu is. I think Mohamed Sanu is a bigger guy. Think more like Robert Woods.
You didn't like the Emmanuel Sanders comparison.
No, I do, because Emmanuel Sanders is 5'11", 180, 190. I think he's a solid – I do think Kadarius Toney is more electric than Emmanuel Sanders, though.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I do think Emmanuel Sanders was a much better route runner. But, again, these are things that Kadarius Toney can learn. Kadarius Toney was a pure option route runner, which I think is I don't love with Jameis Winston, but I do love in Sean Payton's offense. I mean, that's all Michael Thomas runs is option routes. You know what I mean? Are you running an out, an in, or a curl? You know, that's all he does because he's not going past 7 yards. So, but yeah.
And then at 29, the Green Bay Packers.
They're going to take Rashad Bateman here if he's there, the wide receiver from Minnesota. I hope they do. I mean, gosh, at what point do you start giving the guy some help? Rashad Bateman, is there a better fit in this entire draft?
I don't think that there is. I don't think that there is.
This is literally a match made in heaven. If Rashad Bateman's available and they don't make the pick, I bet Aaron Rodgers retires right then. This kid was tailor-made for Green Bay's offense. He can work the slot. He can work the outside. He is built. I mean, his biggest strength is how he gets off the line of scrimmage. You will not stop him on the line of scrimmage. You won't do it. So if you give Aaron Rodgers a guy who he knows is going to win off the line of scrimmage, which he has in Devontae Adams, and then you give him another one of them, I mean, that's just a match made in heaven. I love this pick. Do I think it'll happen? Absolutely not, because Rashad Bateman doesn't get past the 20s, in my opinion. But I mean, this pick here is just
I love Rashad Bateman. I think, and the thing about Rashad Bateman is, and Sully, you know this, he's listed at like 6'2", but given his reach, he plays like a wideout who's 6'6".
I mean, he's only 6 foot, which sucked. He shrunk 2 inches from his listed weight to his pro day. But I agree, his catch radius is big.
His reach is, and he catches everything you throw at him.
He does. That's the thing. His catch radius is elite. And not just, again, he's done it multiple ways. So when Tyler Johnson was there, he was the outside receiver and was extremely successful there. And then the way Minnesota runs, they put their best receiver in the slot. So then they moved Rashad Bateman to the slot once Tyler Johnson left, and Rashad Bateman blew up and broke all of Tyler Johnson's records. So I just don't see any way he doesn't succeed. Now, granted, Green Bay's very stubborn in their ways. They draft like I draft. They will take a defensive lineman, an offensive lineman, a quarterback, or a corner, and that's really it that they're going to take in the first round. They do not deviate off of that very often. They take key positions and key positions only. Now, they very rarely take skill positions. Now, I don't know if they decide this is finally the year because Aaron Rodgers is tired of it, but if Rashad Bateman's there, they're taking him. Tackle's a huge need for them too, so
Rashad Bateman in Green Bay could be the best receiver in this draft, not Jamar Chase.
100%.
Well, and you say big reach radius makes him looks bigger. I think of another Green Bay receiver in Devontae Adams,
exactly.
Who I swear I thought was 6'5". He's only 6'1".
Honestly, if I had a comp for Rashad Bateman, it'd be Devontae Adams. Just not quite that elite yet, but like that's his ceiling. If he gets to his best player, he's Devontae Adams.
And Aaron Rodgers doesn't need much, quite frankly. You throw me out there in the slot, he's going to find me open. I just have to catch it.
And not just that, dude, with Alan Lazard and Martin Valdez-Scalding, and then you add a guy like Rashad Bateman, who's a legit threat at that point, that receiving core set. You don't got to go out and invest a ton, but get one difference maker like Rashad Bateman, and that team who's been in the NFC Championship twice, maybe now they get over the hump.
Right.
At pick number 30, we have the Buffalo Bills, and this is where Zaven Collins goes. I think that they need help at the linebacker spot. I guess if I didn't take Davis, if I took Collins for Baltimore, then probably Davis would be here as well. I just think that that's their biggest need, and I actually think that this is the perfect spot to address that need. They're not overreaching, I think, getting one of these guys.
I agree. Now, granted, I think Jamin Davis is a better fit in Buffalo and Zaven Collins is a better fit in Baltimore, only because of the recent added weight and essentially what he does. Zaven Collins is a guy who's just going to play downhill pretty much all the time. You don't really want to see him in coverage. But at the same time, especially now his last weigh-in, he was 6'4", 270. So he's even increased his weight since his other pro day. So it looks like teams are maybe telling him, hey, look, we want you to play edge kind of thing. We want you to be more like that player because otherwise I don't understand the weight gain. It's only going to make you less athletic, and when you're a linebacker, I think you want to be as more athletic as possible. But I do agree linebacker is a huge need. Nick Bolton's a fit here too, in my opinion. I wouldn't hate him going here. So I do agree. Azeez Ojulari, the edge there, I think is a good pick as well. Speaking of, I think I'm going to change the next pick on the fly on you guys. I know it's not my pick, but
I was just going to say, Baltimore gets the pick. We didn't have that when we did our draft. We asked Nick if he wanted to switch it up, and switched it up after the fact.
Yeah, and I went Azeez Ojulari to Baltimore, and to me it made sense. He's very toolsy. He probably fits. To me, I think he has the potential to fit or replace a guy like Judon, who they lost. Right? He's going to be a bit of a project. That's what it is. I mean, he tore his ACL his senior year of high school. You never like to see that for a super young player, but the dude's an athlete. I mean, flat out, he's an athlete. He can get to the quarterback. Very long, very quick. Pretty smart player given his age. He's only 20 years old. I think I like Ojulari a lot.
I do too. I also think he's actually, out of the top 5 edges, I think he's the most NFL ready. Now, granted, I don't think any of them really are, but I think he's the one that could step on and perform like right off a rip. But considering the huge amount of smoke behind the Ravens and a receiver, Elijah Moore would 100% be the pick here. He just fits that team to a T too. I think he can really excel in that offense. I don't love Devin Duvernay out of the slot, and I think Elijah Moore would provide a much better weapon out of the slot, and then I don't think anybody gets open quicker than Elijah Moore in this draft class, and so I think that would be a huge asset to Lamar Jackson. But again, this pick was kind of on the fly, so we were just kind of rushing it.
Right.
The last pick of the first round here is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that's Sully's team.
You forgot something before that.
What's that?
The Super Bowl champion.
Oh, okay. Super Bowl
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is the steal of the draft. This I don't think will ever happen. But Christian Barmore here at 32. Talk about a luxury if Tampa Bay is able to land him. I mean, geez Louise, the guy absolutely dominated the college football playoff, made first-round picks look terrible along the Ohio State line, and excuse me. And damn, who else did they play? I can't remember now for the life of me. It's driving me nuts.
Ohio State?
No, who's the other team?
Oh, who else did they play?
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, yeah.
Just absolutely bullied Notre Dame too. I know that's not difficult.
Right.
But Christian Barmore is, in my opinion, the only defensive tackle in this class, pretty much worth a darn. I like Ali McNeil too, but beyond that, it's a huge drop off. But again, for the Bucs to be able to get him at 32, I think feels a need to, because we've got Ndamukong Suh on a 1-year deal that probably won't be back. And then you put him next to Vita Vea, and God, that's scary. I mean, that's scary.
Well, that wraps up our mock draft. We appreciate
Wayne.
Oh, go
Wayne,
ahead.
can I do our Mr. Irrelevant, who would be the first pick to Jacksonville in the second round? I just have to say it as a Penn State. It's going to be Pat Freiermuth. It has to be Pat Freiermuth.
There's no way.
The first pick.
It's Travis Etienne.
I was thinking Etienne, yeah.
No.
I'll bet money says it's Travis Etienne.
They need a tight end so badly. And Freiermuth fits because he can block. He catches everything. Sully, you projected him as Jason Witten. I like
Tommy Tremble a lot too, though, and I think you can get him into the third because he's Kyle Juszczyk, in my opinion.
Freiermuth to Jacksonville. That's my take.
I mean, that'd be a reach. That'd be another reach.
Well, I'm the reach guy.
Now, Travis Etienne at the top makes so much sense. They need that kind of secondary running back to James Robinson, in my opinion.
Yeah, but James Robinson's so similar, and they need a tight end. Who's their tight end?
Oh, James Robinson.
Who's their tight end?
Who cares?
Well, I'm saying Trevor Lawrence needs a weapon. Freiermuth can block for their existing running back.
Travis Etienne's a weapon, not Pat Freiermuth. He is not a weapon. He is not a weapon. He's a good player, not a weapon. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely follow us on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook now, obviously it's at Infinity Sports Podcast, on Instagram at Infinity Sports Podcast, and on Twitter at Sports Infinity 5. We certainly appreciate everyone sticking around, listening to the episode. We do have hopefully a humongous celebrity endorsement that's going to be doing a nice little read for us. So fingers crossed. Was it hopes and prayers, everybody, to help us get it. I'm not going to say who it is, so I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. But I think we have a really
dope.
It's gonna be huge.
Is it Zion? Is it Zion?
It is. How did he guess it?
That would be great. All right, so Kenny, where are we at with the draft?